We're making tortilla chips today. Why? Because they're awesome. So last week we made homemade salsa and it was awesome. But what is homemade salsa without something to dip it into? And yeah, I know you can buy a bag of something like this, or even some really good tortilla chips like this, which are great. And stores are getting better at making their own tortilla chips and having them for sale, and they're really good, and you know, they taste like something you'd find in a Mexican restaurant. But chips can get kind of pricey, and like anything else, they're really, really good when you make them yourself. So how do you make your own tortilla chips? Well, you begin with tortillas, specifically corn tortillas. And today I'm going to show you how to turn these into tortilla chips using an air fryer. Yes, the traditional way of making chips would be you'd cut these up and then you just dump them into a deep fryer and they'd become golden, crispy, and perfect, and that'd be great. But not everybody has a deep fryer, and frankly, they're kind of messy, even the ones that are made for homes, and there's the oil and all this, and it becomes a thing. But air fryers are becoming more popular, they're becoming more inexpensive, and they're just easier to use. So today, we're going to turn these into air-fried tortilla chips. Yum! So at its most basic, you only need two things to make your own tortilla chips, and that is one, of course, corn tortillas. You can use white or yellow, and these things are so cheap. I bought this big bag for, I don't know, maybe like $2. That could make a lot of chips. And of course, oil. You can use the oil of your choice. This is just some canola oil. So that would be all we'd really need. But as you know, when you're making things yourself, you can make them your way. So that means with tortilla chips, you can flavor them how you want. And what I like to do is add just a little bit of taco seasoning, kind of coat that on there, and then some salt. And the result is you get these crispy tortilla chips that have this nice flavor. There's like some cumin and paprika, all the good stuff that goes into taco seasoning. You can do that if you want. You don't have to. You can just do salt if you like it. Super simple. But those are the basics for tortilla chips. Here's how to make it happen. So here we go. We're going to begin by grabbing a few tortillas. This is about 4, and we are just going to cut them into squares. That just means making 2 cuts. They don't have to be perfect. And see, what you end up with are these triangles. Hey, does this look familiar? Haha. This will, of course, become a tortilla chip. So take your triangles and just kind of separate them and put them into your bowl. We're going to use, well, it'll depend on the size of your air fryer, but personally for mine, I use about a dozen tortillas. Okay, so here are our tortillas. They've all been cut into these nice triangles. And if you want tortilla strips, well, you could do that too, just by cutting them into strips versus triangles, but this is kind of the classic shape. So like a deep fryer, we are going to use some oil to make these chips, but unlike a deep fryer, with air fried chips, you use just a little bit of oil. You're not like submerging them into a bunch of oil. So all it takes is just maybe about a couple tablespoons of oil to coat the chips. And here's how to do that. Great, so we've got our chips in a bowl, and what I'm gonna do now is I've got some oil here, and I'm just going to kind of pour some on. You can use less, you can use more, but let's begin with that. Now, what we're gonna do is I've got some tongs, and we are just going to toss. And the idea is you don't want these things drowning in oil. You just want them nicely coated in oil. So just toss them really well. And the more you do this, the more you'll kind of get the hang of it and know when to add a little more oil. These are looking a little bit dry, so I'm just going to add a touch more. And what we're just gonna do is toss these. Okay, see that? They're kind of just nicely coated in just a shimmer of oil, and that's basically what you're looking for. Now, at its most basic, this is all you would need to do. But again, I like to add, I've got some taco seasoning here. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of sprinkle this on and then toss again. You can use as much or as little seasoning as you want. And if you like things really spicy, you could even use like some cayenne powder. Okay, then finally, we're going to finish with some salt. Just do a few good sprinkles of that. And our chips are now nice and coated with oil and just a dusting of that seasoning and salt. Now it is time to air fry. Okay, so this is an air fryer. They come by many different names. There's many different brands. In fact, if you're a fan of Instant Pot, I know that Instant Pot has even come out with their own attachment. It's an air fryer that you can put on top of the Instant Pot and air fry. There's also countertop ovens that use air frying, but all air frying really is doing is it's kind of like a convection oven on steroids. It gets really, really hot and then it blows air over the food that's being cooked. And if you've ever been, I don't know, like out in the desert and you've had, you're just kind of sweltering and this desert air comes and you feel yourself like getting crispy, well, that's what happens to food in an air fryer. You have this really hot air just kind of blowing constantly over the food, and what happens is that actually crisps it. So that's kind of how air fryers work. Again, yours may look different, but usually they have a bin, and this is where we are going to put our chips, and then we are going to turn it on and let it work its magic. Okay, so I am going to remove the air fryer bin and just kind of dump my chips right in here. And don't worry about kind of their arrangement, because you will be shifting this through the process, and you will be kind of shaking and making sure all the chips are exposed, but we won't get ahead of ourselves. So for now, let's just kind of dump all the chips in, and we'll let the chips land where they may. Get it? Because they're like tortilla chips, but they're... All right, let's make some tortilla chips. Awesome, so we've got our tortilla chips in. I'm gonna give them one good shake. Then I'm going to pop in to my air fryer here. Now again, they all work, you know, they're probably gonna look different, but they all work kind of the same. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set mine for, let's say 20 minutes. And then for a temperature, I like to do mine at 390 and then hit the start button. And there we go. We are starting to make air fried corn chips. Just kind of let this go for, I'd say about 5 minutes. And then what I like to do is about every 5 minutes, I like to pull the drawer out, toss the chips, make sure all of them are kind of getting exposed. And that's all you really have to do. So we're gonna cook these for about 20 minutes in total, or until the chips are nice and crispy. And let me tell you, once you make your own homemade tortilla chips, oh my gosh, it's like, they're like the high definition of tortilla chips. They're awesome, but I'll let you decide, and you can let me know in the comments if you make this recipe. But for now, let's let the air fryer do its thing. And remember, there's a little bit of maintenance required. Just check in about every 5 minutes, kind of toss those chips, make sure everything's getting nice and exposed, because those that are on the bottom, they tend to not get as much of the air flown at them. But again, your air fryer is probably gonna vary too. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. Let's check on our chips. Okay, and actually, really, there's not a whole lot that's happening here. You might open it up and expect to see these big fried chips. Not yet. Again, it's only been about 5 minutes. So this is perfectly normal. These guys are just kind of starting to get warm. So take your tongs, give it a toss, and then we're gonna put this right back in. And mine starts automatically. If yours doesn't, then just hit start and let it go. and we will check back again in another 5 minutes. Okay, our chips have been cooking for another 5 minutes, and it's been 10 minutes total. Let's check in and see how they're doing and give everything another nice toss. Okay, and you can see them, they're already starting to get a little bit brown, and you can always take take one or two out and just kind of see how they're doing too by feel. But what we're going to do is just again give these a nice little toss. Put it back in and let it rip for another 5 minutes. Another 5 minutes, and then we will check back and see how they're doing. Okay, you still with me? It has been a total of 15 minutes, and my kitchen is really starting to smell good. So let's check on our chips. Again, it's been 15 minutes total cooking time. Oh my gosh, look at that. Now these are really starting to look like chips. Get you a closer look here. So, oh yeah, they are, these top ones especially are nice and crispy. And here's where you want to make sure any that are on the bottom and haven't really been exposed as much to that hot air get turned to the top. And if some of the chips are really like already super done, then you can always take these out. But these chips are getting really, really close to being done. So here's what we're gonna do. We're going to pop these back in and let them rip. But when you're at this stage where the chips are getting really close to done, I want you to check on them about every minute instead of every 5, because I don't want you to burn your chips, all right? So just check on the chips pretty often, about every minute, and cook until they are nice and crispy and done. So these guys are really close, and I'll show you what they look like when everything is finished. We're getting so close that I can just about envision the crunch and taste of those chips in my mouth. I hope you can too. Let's see how we're doing. So we are at the 3-minute mark. Yeah, we are really close. So as you can see, I've already taken out a couple of the chips that were really more done, and I'm going to do the same here. And of course, these are really hot, so I shouldn't have to warn you about that. Now, if you get a chip that's still kind of flaccid, that's okay. I mean, they can't all be winners. And if some are softer than others, you know, that's just something that's going to happen. Maybe feed it to your dog. But I'm just going to take out some of these that are a little more done, and then I'm going to pop this back into the air fryer and let it keep doing its thing. Okay, it's been 17 minutes total cooking time, and my culinary ESP is just kind of telling me that I think we're really close to being done, or we're done. So let's give one final check on these chips, see how we're doing. You have been checking on your chips, right? Check on those chips. Okay. Oh, yeah. Do you see that? And do you hear that? That is the sound and sight of homemade tortilla chips. So these guys are pretty much done, and here's what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of set this on my stove. Remember, this thing is really hot. And then I'm just going to take my tongs and put everything in a bowl. And here we go. These are homemade air-fried tortilla chips. Lovely. Oh, gee, what's this? This must be salsa that I showed you how to make last time, homemade. You know where this is going, right? Of course you do. We're going to take one of our homemade tortilla chips and dunk it in our homemade salsa. Mmm. Mmm. That is so good. Guys, we just made homemade tortilla chips in under 20 minutes. Do you hear that? They're so crunchy. They're salty. They've got that taco seasoning. They're delicious. And that is how to make homemade tortilla chips in an air fryer. And if you don't already have an air fryer, I might have just given you reason enough to buy one. I think mine has paid for itself just in the amount of money that I've saved having to buy store-bought tortilla chips. Again, these things are so cheap that your own chips are like pennies on the dollar. So guys, if you liked this video, you know what to do. Please like, please subscribe. Stay tuned for more easy recipes, kitchen advice, and whatever else I can think of and whatever you can think of. If you've got a question on how to do something in the kitchen, let me know in the comments below, and maybe we'll get to it on a future episode. Thanks. We'll see you next time.